Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm Dr. Joe Hamlett, and alongside of me, as always, is my colleague, Dr. Dave Peltz. How are you doing, Dr. Dave?
Most excellent, sir.
All right. Uh, Satisfied both sides of
Right.
the salute. So, okay. All right. Well, again, thank you for tuning in today. If you have been part of this journey with us, then thanks for returning. And if this is your first time, welcome to the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, where me and Dave try to solve the world's problems. And as you can see, we've been here many times before, and we have not made as much
not
progress
not
as we
quite there.
thought.
We're thinking soon though.
So I think we're going to have to continue to do this
Yep.
for a period of time, which we're okay with. So, all that aside, if you've been here before, you know how we do this. So one of us starts off the podcast, and the other tackles our topic. And so today's topic is, and it's probably appropriate because of the season we're in.
Hmm.
Uh, and so if you think of the spring season and you think of greener grass.
Ooh,
That's what we're going to talk about today.
greener
And
grass.
yeah, in reference to what you might think is on the
What
other
what?
side.
So real quick, greener grass. So we're not talking about landscaping, right? Because in
No,
that
I just
context,
made
I'm
that
not
reference.
familiar. Yeah, okay,
I
because
just made that reference
I have a lot of
because
rocks in
of.
my yard.
So we're talking greener grass in reference to your job, your profession, even
Okay.
at home. You
Okay.
might
Let's
think
see what
there's
we got
greener
here.
grass. So
Okay, so greener grass. Yeah, so greener grass. In the work environment, I'd say on the professional development side, professional side of things, yeah, be careful because things are not always as they appear. Recruiters are recruiters for a reason because they're very good at selling a company or a product or a position. And, so I'm going to say do your research, one, and be careful because I've talked to so many people throughout my career, um, as a consultant and as peer colleague and supervisor, that people are just excited to get out of that department, that organization, that company, that team. And there's that honeymoon period for about 2 to 3 months where everything is just great, it's perfect, they're so glad they did it. And then I talk to them about the 6 month mark, and many of them have a lot of regrets, or they're like, oh, I should have stayed where I was. Oh, and there's different reasons for that. It could be the team, the people weren't as bad as they thought they were, or
right,
maybe the team was better than they realized. So there's a lot of different pieces that go on the home front. If we're talking about relationships or even buying a vehicle,
yeah,
do your research. You can jump out of your relationship and into something much worse. Be careful. um, and like a vehicle, if you're saying, well, I can afford a new vehicle, or I'm going to get a better used vehicle or something like that, I'm going to get a different vehicle. Is it always going to work out the way you think it's going to? What we
right,
talk about, the what if scenarios. What if it doesn't go what what we how we thought it was going to go? What is our backup plan? So yeah, greener grass could go either way. It could work out great for you, or
right,
maybe there's that 5, 10, or 20% of the time that maybe it won't, and you're kind of rolling the dice a little bit and seeing what happens, and
yep,
crossing your fingers because you're with on the professional side again, you're with a new team, you're with a new supervisor, you're with a new leader, you're with a new company, there's a new company culture. Maybe the grass is not not natural grass. Maybe it's fake grass. So
artificial,
it's artificial grass. So
right.
maybe what you thought was greener grass is just a bunch of plastic that's been woven together.
Yep. Well, Dave, I want to go back to you mentioned recruiters, and that's typically where you're going to hear the first time about a potential job opportunity, a professional opportunity. But it's also not just the recruiters, but it's also people you reach out to in your
Yeah,
networks, your
maybe
peers,
on
your
social
colleagues, your
media and
friends, families,
the various
and
professional
right, and
websites.
and
Yep.
and a lot of times they paint a prettier picture
Oh yeah.
sometimes that where they are at that say at that organization, or if they've heard that organization, they may paint a prettier picture. And I think it's kind of natural for people to do that.
Oh
They
yeah, you're
don't typically
excited about
lead
something
with,
new. If you're excited, if it's something you want, you're going to be excited about it.
well, I'm just talking in terms of someone who's maybe referencing or recommending an
Hmm.
organization to you that they're, typically you're not going to leave with, well, I wouldn't come here. This place is not great,
It's
or
not
it
the grass
sucks.
is not green here.
Right. So I think naturally we have a tendency to paint a better picture for
Mhm.
people, just so that, that they are excited about, maybe there's an opportunity for that person, because reality is that that person could be leaving an organization that is worse off than the
Yeah, that's
organization
true.
that you may be recommending or suggesting. So I think we do that, as a way to, again, maybe for them this could be a better situation. So
Sure.
I think we might sometimes lead with some of the benefits, some of the nice things or the great things, versus saying, hey, I would be leery of coming here because
Yeah.
of this. Because even if you did, spout off some of the bad or negative
Yeah.
things, that
It
still
may be
might be
better.
better
Yeah.
than where they're coming from.
Right.
So,
Or and
so
if
I
they've been displaced, then it's definitely going to be better than nothing, potentially.
Absolutely. So I think
Potentially.
sometimes we try to help with that situation,
Yeah.
again, depending on the situation that and the place that person is in, as far as a professional side. Like you say, they could have just been displaced. So you're going to encourage them. So you may not say
And a
all
company's
those negative
website is going to
things.
encourage you as well. They're not going to put
Absolutely.
your company's not going to have a website and say we're the worst company to work for. We have bad supervisors and
Right. Right.
bad work shifts. They're not going to do that because
Right.
they know they wouldn't be a company, or well they would, but they may not be in existence very long.
Right. And you also mentioned, personal lives, and whether we think it's greater on the other side, or you see other couples or other friends that
Hmm.
supposedly have it all together, or
Right.
things like that. And the reality is,
It may not be.
most people are going to put their best foot forward when
Yeah.
they're out, when
Right.
they're, you're not always going to come out of the house screaming at each other if things are bad.
Right.
Again, it's that appearance thing that,
Yeah.
people want to show their
Yeah.
best effort.
Yeah.
So, well, and you mentioned too, just even like with personal things. I'm not personal, but with like, a car,
Hmm.
or
Possessions.
possessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, your car's older now, it's paid off. You kind of feeling great. Okay, I got this extra money to spend, and I would love to get a new car, or better used car.
Hmm.
And then, like you said, honeymoon phase. You're a couple of months in. This is great. It still feels good. And then after the third or fourth payment, you're like, oh my goodness. Now,
Yeah, I could
now
have
you
really
got
used
that.
that extra money for something
Exactly.
else. I could have
So,
now a trip has come up and it's like, oh, I want to take a
right.
vacation or, whatever. So,
Right. So I think you started off with, if you're considering any of these things, the biggest part of it is doing your research.
yeah.
Make sure you can gain as much information about whatever situation you're trying to change.
Hmm.
And because sometimes you may look at and learn a lot about another organization or about other things, and you may still go along with it, which is
Right.
okay, as
Yeah.
long as you go into it informed, as much as you can be, because you're not going to find out a lot of those details until you're actually in the day to day,
Right.
actually
Right.
see interaction with other
Yeah.
people. And
You start
so,
you start going through that team building process.
absolutely. So then you start to learn more. So
Hmm.
we just, again, caution you that, it may not be the best fit, but again, if you have a better understanding,
Yeah.
more knowledge about that situation,
If you have
the
contacts and network people in your network that that work there, that's a great resource to go to,
right,
because your friends and your colleagues that work for an organization hopefully are going to be more transparent with you than
right,
say um, somebody else.
right.
And because companies don't like to be put in bad light, but if you're going to be working for them, you want to know what you're getting into, or you should want to know what you're getting into. What is the workplace culture like? What is the work schedule like? You know,
But
so
I also think it goes back to, again, if you define kind of where you're trying to
mhm.
go, even though you
Well, and
may
that
have
gets back
heard.
to the personal development side of things. What are your
Right.
goals? What are your
Right.
aspirations? What are your
So it
needs?
may be okay to step into
Yeah,
organization where the grass may not be greener, but it may be the stepping stone you need
yeah,
to
it may
get to
provide
where
more
you ultimately where
opportunity
you want
or
to go.
get your skill levels up.
Right. So it again, but being informed, being as knowledgeable about whatever that organization is or what they have to offer is still going to benefit you the best, and help you to make that more informed decision,
Right.
based on, again, the things that are laid in front of you, and not just taking it on a whim, or
Hmm.
accepting it because it looks like it's green. I would just, again, caution you, and just have you do your due diligence,
Yeah.
and find as much information out as you can about that organization if you're planning to move.
Hmm.
And I know I
Excuse me.
interrupted you
No, no, you're good. You're good.
earlier.
I was gonna say, let's take this one step further. So let's say you decide that you do want to work for this new team or organization or company. The other thing, again, focusing on the due diligence thing, look at your employee paperwork, look at that job offer and the job offer package that they provide to you, and make sure it lines up with what you were promised or what you agreed upon during your interviews,
Right.
because things slip by advertently or inadvertently. Read all the fine print. I tell my clients, when you get that package, look at it, that job offer package, look at it, read it, and then go take a break for 20 or 30 minutes and just clear your head, because you can come back, you're all like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and like all excited, about this new job
Right.
offer, or new time or position or opportunity. And we tend to sometimes not read things as thoroughly as we should, or
Right.
read all the fine print. And so
Right.
that's one of the things I want to put out there, is make sure that you read that fine print, make sure, and then have someone else read the job offer that you trust and say, hey, am I missing anything? Is there something in here that I didn't see? And have them read it, and then you know have that sounding board, if you will, to make sure that you're not just like on that job offer high, if you will, because
Right.
if you put in for a job, there's got to be a reason that you want it. So if you get the job offer, you're going to be excited about it to some degree, maybe not jumping up and down on the tables, you know, having congratulations signs putting up all over your living room or kitchen, but you need to be able to compose yourself and come back down off of that adrenaline to be able to focus and read the fine print.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's been opportunities in people's careers where the fine print wasn't read, and maybe they don't get a bonus, or
Right. Yep.
the words that I like to share, if it says may, could, would, should, those are not imperative. So
Right.
that's just, if it says that, then you can pretty much take that off the table on what really is being
Right.
offered, because oh, you may be eligible for an up to 50% performance bonus every year. Well, you may, but you also may not. If it
Right.
says you
Yep.
will be entitled to a bonus, then you've got something to stand on. So, when we talk about reading your job offers carefully, that's what we're talking about. Same if you're getting into a house or a vehicle. You get excited about getting that vehicle or getting that house or apartment or roommate or whatever. It's like, you go into a contract, make sure you read all of it. And I know we've kind of gotten away from that from a societal perspective, because we're inundated with all these agreements and terms with our cell phones and with our internet and with our streaming, providers. It's like, how many people really sit down and read the 50 or 150 pages of that agreement, where they say that they're not responsible for data leaks and losses, and
Right.
we're
Right.
sharing your data, you give us permission to
Right.
share your data, and you're like, I just want a cell phone with good service, and then you realize you've just opened the door to a lot of your private or personal information. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, you bring up a very good point when you talk about, all the wills and may, should, all those types of things,
Yeah.
because you're right. When we read that, we're excited. So we read the part where it says the bonus. We read the
Mhm.
part where it says the flexible hours and all that. But we don't, you're right,
The
we don't read
salary,
that
and
that one word that
yeah, it
may
says
change the
may,
definition or
could,
the
would,
intent.
should, might.
Exactly, because we are excited about this
Yeah.
opportunity, or about the new house, or about whatever service we're signing up for,
Hmm.
and we do skip over those things. We just see those highlights, the things we want to see.
Yeah.
So it does, yeah, down the road, when you realize you go and try and recoup on a service, or something happened, and you're like, they refer you back to that fine print, or
Yeah, that
back to
fine
the
print.
contract where
Yeah.
they say, it says you may,
Yeah.
but it also means you may not, like you
Yeah.
said. So
Think
you
about it
you
from like your health insurance, for a job, right? It's like, if it says you will be eligible for health insurance after, from day one,
right.
or, after 1 month, then that's good. You're going to
Right.
get it. You will get it. If it says you may be eligible after 30 days, you may not be eligible for healthcare.
Right.
So be
Right.
careful. I mean, a lot of people tend to pay attention to the healthcare thing, to make sure that they're going to get it and when they're going to get it. Is it going to be day one? Is it going to be, day 14, day 40, day 30, whatever. But the bonuses and, performance increases and annual percentage increases and cost of living increases and, you know, education that you may be eligible for $2,000 worth of training.
Right.
You may, if the team has the budget and if you're at the top of the list. So what are the conditions for those things?
Well, and that's why I was going to go back to what you had mentioned earlier about getting someone else to maybe read it,
Mhm. Yep, exactly.
that are not in that same position, that are going to be excited, going
Yeah,
to miss and skip
they're going to be a little
words
bit
and
more
important
critical.
pieces. Yeah, they're gonna look at those things and say, well, it says this here. You just told me you're going to get a bonus, and it doesn't say that. So
Hmm.
they could help ground you and maybe help bring you back down to reality,
Right, right.
to really look at that offer or whatever that is proposed in front of you. And
Hmm.
so I think that's a good idea if you've got someone else who can look at it in a different way than what you are, because you're going to have the excitement. So you're going to be wanting to find those
Yeah.
key words
They
and
said bonus. It says
phrases.
bonus. It says pay raise. It
Right.
says pay
But
raise.
you didn't really pay attention to, again,
Yeah,
to how you get that bonus,
yeah.
or the criteria for that bonus. So I think that's very important that we bring somebody along if we can, or like you said,
Mhm.
take a few minutes or a day to really look at the offer,
Mhm.
or maybe calm down. You got that job you think is a dream job until you go back and read the fine
Yeah.
print, and you don't want that to happen 3 months, 6 months down the
Right.
road when when now you've had other opportunities and you chose this one. So
Yeah.
it just, again, to making sure you do your due diligence and realize what you're signing up for, not the glossy eyed dreamy, this
Mhm.
is my perfect job or perfect role or whatever it is, but really taking the time to understand what you're signing up for,
Yeah.
in whatever case, whether it's personal or professional. just
Yeah.
just doing your taking your time, due diligence. If you get the job offer on a Friday, find out if you can, you know, give them an answer on Monday. So that
Right.
gives you the entire weekend to maybe read the job offer,
Mhm.
or have somebody else maybe weigh in on it to see if it does fit for you. I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea to do something like that. But if they tell you, you get your job offer on Wednesday, and they tell you you've got until the end of the
Noon.
day,
Yeah. The end of the
or
day.
you've got uh 24 hours to
Yeah.
make this
Or
decision,
two
or it's
hours.
going to
That
be
might be a red
rescinded.
flag.
Right. Yeah. So just really pay attention to those, sometimes those flags that
Mhm.
are out there, versus your excitement and all that. So that's one of, just, we want to make sure
Yeah.
you're selecting it for the right reasons. And I'll go back to what I said earlier. It may just be a stepping stone, so it
Yeah.
may be okay that
Yeah.
the grass is not greener. But Dave said it could lend to other opportunities, or getting you closer to where you want to
Right.
ultimately be. So just go into it knowing, if there are things that may be hidden, or may not have been spoke of, even if your friends or family or peers are recommending it, just keep in mind, that's going to be their perception too, because their perception may be different, as as what's acceptable, what they deem as important to them. So just
Hmm.
keep that in mind too when they're saying it's great. What is their background? What are they comparing this to? So
Hmm.
just think about those things again when people are excited about recommending or suggesting an organization or things like that.
Yeah. Or a vehicle or a
Oh,
house or an
absolutely.
apartment or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing applies, when we talk about greener grass, yeah, we are personal and professional development coaches and consultants, but what we're wanting you to pay attention to is that we always iterate this, is that one affects the other. You can use your work skills at home, you can use your home skills at work, or
Right.
personal skills at work, and your professional skills at home. So there's that kind of duality to the situation. And if it works out and the paperwork checks out, then that's great. What happens sometimes though, usually inadvertently, because the department that's sending out the notice, sorry, the job offer, tend to use templates, and
Right. Yep. Yep.
maybe the decimal point is in the wrong place. Now, if they say that you're going to be making $50,000 a year and the decimal point's in the wrong place and it says you're making $500,000 a year, I'm pretty sure they're not going to back that up. So,
Right.
we have to be reasonable about this. But if something doesn't look right, if your name's not spelled right, your information is not correct, the job offer content is not right or correct, or there's an error in there, don't automatically assume that it's a bad thing. It was on purpose. More than likely,
Right.
it was
Right.
inadvertent. Um, so what do we do when that happens? And that's a question I get as well. What is it? What do I do? I don't want to offend the employer. Well, no, you don't want to offend them, but you don't want to offend yourself
Right.
either.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, just tactfully address it, just reply back that, something to the effect that the offer looks great. However, you notice a few discrepancies and you'd like to discuss them, or and then point them out.
Absolutely. That's in your best interest to, again, if you sign up thinking that you're going to make 500,000 and they come back the next day and
And it's
say you're
50.
making 50,000, then so it is up to you
Yeah.
to take the time to look at the offer, like Dave said, and to maybe reference, hey, I thought we discussed this during our, initial interview or our last
Or agreement.
interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, just let's just make sure we're in alignment so that I don't come in here expecting something and then it's not that. So
Yeah.
that's your, again, you're going to be tied to this agreement or
Mhm.
contract, whatever you sign. So it is up to you to get as much information as you can to make sure you're in alignment with that employer, with that whoever that contract is with, so that there's no surprises. Like you say, you're thinking you're going to expect a 10% bonus every year and then realize, no, I'm only going to get, I may get that bonus based on these circumstances. So just make sure you're in alignment and you have an understanding of the expectations for that contract or whatever, that employment agreement.
Yeah, and make sure
Or
it's fixed before you accept it. Don't
absolutely.
accept it in
That's the
good
big thing.
faith that they're
Yeah.
going to fix it.
Right. Yeah.
Accept it and sign it after it's been fixed. It's kind of like
Absolutely.
it's like
Yeah.
going to a car dealership. If it says 2.9% interest and the decimal point was moved, it says 29% interest, and you sign it, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure the car dealership is going to stick to that
Absolutely.
29%. So,
Yeah.
do your due diligence, read the contracts carefully, read the
Right.
fine print, ask questions. And if it doesn't feel right, listen to your gut. If the hair on the back of your neck stands up
Right.
or on the front of your neck
Absolutely.
stands up,
Yeah.
pay attention to those things. If you're not getting that warm and fuzzy, there may be a reason for it, other than
And,
the
it-
air conditioning's not working
and
or the fridge.
that is a very good indicator. If it doesn't feel right, if
Mhm.
if you have the hair standing up and all those types of things, then that is your body kind of cautioning you
Mhm.
on, maybe pay attention to this, or typically our gut is right. And so if we pay attention to those uncertainties, and if you have questions, ask all the questions that you can. The tactics they use, especially when you're buying a vehicle, they do the old, they put out what the car's worth or what the going rate for that vehicle. Then you say, well, I want to pay this. And they go in there and in the office, let me go talk to my boss. And you really look over there and they're just
They're
laughing,
having
joking.
lunch. Yeah.
Exactly. And then come back, to pressure you and to sign in at that original rate. So just, again, if it doesn't feel right, if it causes you to pause, then
Mhm.
pay attention to that. And like I
Yeah.
said, best if you've got someone in there that you can bounce those ideas off of. When my son and daughter both bought their first cars, we went with them,
Mhm.
and not necessarily to say no, don't get that, but again, when they found a car they liked, and when that salesman stepped away, and if they had questions about whatever they were talking about, then hopefully we answered those questions for them, just so they were more informed versus just going and coming back home and saying, hey, here's my new car, it's only $80,000, my
Yeah.
payments are $1,200 a month, I can afford that. So
I can afford the
So
car, but not to eat.
absolutely. So that's what we're referring to when we
Right.
talk about, just the cautious, the again having somebody by your side to maybe assist you, to maybe look at the fine print where you're not necessarily reading it or you're not paying attention to it because maybe there's some hidden stuff in there that you didn't know.
Yeah.
But
And it
again,
may go ahead.
I,
Yeah, sorry.
I was just gonna say, so just really consider when we think the grass is greener on the other
Right.
side. And I think Dave said it at the very beginning. It may appear to be nice and neat
And
until you
lush and
really get across the fence and you realize, oh, this is plastic.
yeah, yeah.
So just really do your due diligence and be prepared for
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. And a lot of companies now are providing the opportunities to meet the team that you're going to be working with, not just the
Yep.
hiring manager. Some of them will give you a short tour or a long tour of the
Right. Yep.
facility and introduce you to people. And if that happens, if that opportunity comes up, take it. I mean, that's
Yep.
going to be another good indicator. I mean, that transparency is important, and if they're willing to be transparent like that, then that's going to help you make a more it'll help you make a more informed decision
Yep.
about what you want, and it's just part of the new cycle of things with the hiring process.
Right.
And same with jobs when you're looking for them, when you're looking for that greener grass, look at the reviews, look at the employee reviews, look at the comments, look at do searches on them, see how they're doing financially. If they're giving you a big fat salary and they haven't made money in 10 years, and they're talking about maybe chapter 11 or selling, that may
Right.
be a big indicator that you may get 500 grand for the year, but if you're only there for a month, it's going to be a lot
Right.
less.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, do your research, do your due diligence. There's a lot of reviews out there, and just because it says 3 stars out of 5 doesn't mean it's a bad company. Look at the reviews and say, and see what the trends are. Maybe that
Right.
was the
Yep.
previous CEO or leadership team and that they've changed in the last 6 months. It's going to take time for that score to go back up so people can put some, so there needs to be an opportunity for them to put some good feedback in there to bring that score back up. So
Right. All right, Dave. With that, do you have any additional information we'd like to provide to our audience out there?
I think I'm going to leave with a little bit of a quirky type statement, and that is the grass may be greener on the other side. Just make sure you're not watering the artificial grass. Because if you water artificial grass, you're not going to get much growth out of it.
Well said. Well said. And I won't add much more than that, other than do your diligence. And again, been our all of our experiences that the grass is not always greener on the other side. Just really
Or
take
as green. It may be greener, but not as
maybe
green.
greener, but it still may have some brown spots or bald spots out there that you're not seeing. So just be aware that things could be a lot different than you're thinking it is. So
Yeah.
with that, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. And again, if this is your first time, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Or if you've been a long time audience member, please thank you again for tuning in for all the week's episodes. And if you're enjoying this and you think somebody else might benefit or enjoy this content, or if you have suggestions, we always welcome that. So please feel free to provide any type of information you think you want to hear or discuss on this podcast. So with that, we just want you to continue being your not so ordinary you.